Hey, it looks like we're live. Harbor Church, friends, family, those checking in, man. So excited to have everybody here tonight with us. With us tonight as our guest is Jessie Tanguma. We're excited to have Jessie with us, man. We have known Jessie, her husband Jeremy, their whole family for years now. Our kids have grown up around them. Man, they're just great. They're close, and particularly our middle son and their oldest are just thick as thieves. Yep. And are just, it's killing them to not be around each other. It is absolutely killing them. And so, Jessie, thank you so much for being here. Jessie was, for those that don't know, a little tidbit here, Jessie was the original and first Harbor Kids director.
Yes.
That when we met at the Oriental Theater, shout out to all the folks at the Oriental Theater. Scott, if you're watching, love you guys. She was figuring out how to do kids' church in a bar.
Oh, my goodness.
With all the bottles, everything around. So that was great. We love Natalie. Natalie's awesome. Natalie, actually, you've been a big support of Natalie in doing that. But Jessie was the first.
Yes.
She was there working it out.
Mm-hmm.
But Jessie, give us some of your background, and maybe that'll give you some insight in why you are really uniquely suited to give us some tips here as parents that have realized the rest of the school year we're now teaching from home. So give us some background and kind of what puts you in that position then.
Well, first of all, I just have to say that I wear that original Harbor Kids Church with pride, and that was awesome. It was such a fun experience to be able to launch that program. But I actually have been a teacher for about 15 years. I started out in public schools. I taught 5th and 6th grade. I also taught in a bilingual kindergarten classroom in Denver Public Schools. I'm currently in Jefferson County Public Schools in a charter school. So I have worn many hats in that I have worked in public schools and now charter school as the instructional coach for 4th through 8th grade. So what that means is that I get the honor of working and coaching with teachers. And so I get to impact so many more lives than just one classroom. I get to help teachers in best teaching practice.
Yeah. So good.
So great.
So good.
And as a side note, Jessie is one of the smartest people in any room that she walks into.
Pretty much.
And so whenever, if I want to know something, if I'm wondering about something, if Jessie is speaking up, almost always I just need to listen to what she has to say. She has a great insight. She's incredibly smart, particularly when it comes around how best practices, what it looks like to teach and educate us as now educators. And also other teachers. And so just, again, really thankful to have Jessie here.
Yeah. So just, Jessie, there's been a few things that have changed in schools and in our lives as parents who have school-aged kids. What just happened? Seriously, what?
I am still reeling from this too, because we literally went from going into work one day to the next day learning, hey, we're going direct remote learning, and you have one weekend to figure this out. And so it was a shock to the system. It is still a shock to the system for many teachers. And so not only are our teachers having to navigate the craziness of the world we live in with the coronavirus and just chaos in the world around us, but now we also are needing to figure out a new way to take care of our children and make sure that learning can still happen. So it is not expected. It's not something that we were warned ahead of time to prepare for. This was an overnight shock to the system is the best way to describe it.
It wasn't like there was weeks of planning.
No, not at all.
What was the time frame like when you guys kind of started getting hints of maybe we're going to go remote learning to it actually happening? How long did that take for you guys as teachers?
Well, we kind of got wind of it on Thursday night. It was the 13th, I believe, the 12th, 13th of March. And Friday we found out, yep, it is happening. And we're starting on Monday. And so there was not a lot of time for teachers to put together an online learning platform. Teachers did not go to school for this. This is not something that we have been trained in. It's not something that we are particularly excellent at. I mean, there are some teachers that have been doing this and they're the lucky ones right now. but a majority of the teachers are learning on the fly and self-teaching, because there's also not a lot of training happening right now. Teachers are being bombarded with resources left and right, and then having to filter through to try and figure out how to use all of these resources and how to use the technology in order to best teach our kids moving forward. And we're doing it from home, which means that I can't just pop next door to my teammate and ask them, hey, what are you going to do for this? Or, ooh, can you show me how to do that Google Classroom thing, that you've been doing all year that I haven't maybe even looked at quite yet? It's a real thing. And also we're doing that with our 5-year-olds running around behind us, and our 2-year-olds, and our, our own children. And, I sit at the table with my kids when they're learning next to me, and I'm working and they're working, and, how do I prioritize my Zoom call with my students versus, helping my own children to learn too? So it's kind of that the teachers' worlds have exploded. The students' worlds have exploded. And this is just crazy.
And you are married to a teacher as well.
To a teacher.
And so
you're double dipping.
We sure are.
Between the two of you, you've got pre-K through seniors in high school that you are not only parenting, but you are serving online as teachers. And so what are you seeing? Is there a difference that you're seeing that from a teacher's perspective, from elementary to middle school to high school? What you're seeing?
Yeah. So it's interesting because my husband is a high school English teacher, and I work in our kids' pre-K through 8th grade school. And so it is such a gamut of just the different skills that the students are being expected to do. And also the expectation on the teachers has been so just changing so rapidly that in our house, we kind of just don't know what to expect from one day to the next. And we're just doing our best to hang on and to make sure that we not only are doing a good job with our job, but also doing a good job with our kids. Because, they're our treasures. They're the most important thing. And and it's now on us to teach our kids, which isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. So what have you seen the response be? Still with your teacher's hat on this call, what are you seeing the response from kids? Maybe I'll start with kids. What have you seen the response be with kids? And then maybe moving into what have you seen the response be with parents? Yeah.
So it's interesting because there are some families whose kids are having to self-teach. They're having to figure out this distance learning thing at home, maybe when they're home alone because their parents are still working, or they're trying to figure it out day to day, trying to set their own schedule, and they don't have a ton of support. So we definitely have that going on. But then we also have the families who are asking teachers for extra assignments and for more learning for their kids. And, we have the stay-at-home moms who were just preparing for this for their entire lives by building that Pinterest board of crafts and baking and all the fun things. And for them, this is the best time of their life. And so we're seeing both ends of the spectrum as teachers, not only from the pre-K age, but all the way up to the high school age too. Because we also have kids that are working. I've gone into King Soopers over the last couple weeks, a time or two, and I've seen some of my husband's students in there during the day when they're supposed to be doing their online schooling, but they're picking up extra shifts because their parents have been laid off. So we have such a variety of kids now carrying the load because their jobs haven't been eliminated, yet they still have to come home and do their learning in the evenings. So this is impacting a lot of families in a variety of ways.
Are you seeing frustration levels coming your way?
That's interesting because I think that we have seen we have the comments coming from parents that, oh my gosh, you are doing such an amazing job. Thank you for the way that you're setting our kids up, all the way to the frustration. A lot of these families are stuck indoors with their, no one to vent their frustrations to, but they're getting that weekly and daily touch, even from the teachers. And so some of those families in their times of crisis are taking it out on the teachers. They're using it as their venting board and, and making the teachers feel really bad about what is out of our control. And so, we have both ends of the spectrum, and the teachers, of course, are going to take it very personally when a family is struggling or a family is unhappy with what we are trying to ask them to do for learning. So we're getting both of the responses, and I'd say it's equal. It's an equal share.
Yeah, that's so hard. Everybody, right? There's a grieving process for everybody that they're walking through. There's a grieving process that the teacher is walking through. There's a grieving process that the student, a grieving process for the parent. And then you've got kind of the mixed things. I know in our life group, actually, we've got a family where their teenage daughter is really the only one home that's there to try to help their elementary age son. And that gets complicated. Again, and that's everybody because
both parents are working.
Parents have to work.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, if you have a job, you need to go in and keep that job. And so even the person that is the connection point for the teacher, that can be different. It can be the mom, it can be the dad, it can be brother or sister, it can be grandparent, right? It can be uncle, right? Whatever it is. And how you communicate with different person, it takes a bit of a nuance there, I would think.
It does. That's interesting because one of the things that I always try and tell my teachers, and this is something I learned from you, Joel, is to always assume best intentions. And that's because, so much of the communication is happening now over email or text or not face-to-face communications. And so much is lost in tone and intonation that something that might have been a simple request turns into then this big deal because it's misconstrued or misunderstood. And so, like you have always said, always just assume best intention. And that goes for the teachers as well as the students. And I think we're all in that environment right now.
I know.
Right. It just keeps us from being in a defensive posture.
Yes.
And when we're defensive, I'm not going to hear how you intend to come across.
Right.
And so that's a great point, Jessie. And that's a choice that each of us gets to make. There's no teacher out there that's going, how can I screw up your life today?
No.
And no parent is trying to do that either. Everybody is just doing their best in a ridiculous situation.
And so based on that, and I know I can't speak for every teacher, we can't speak for every teacher, but in general, as you know so many teachers, what are teachers' expectations of us as moms, as dads? What are they thinking of?
So I think that the best word to describe this is grace. Right now, the teachers want parents to know, look, I will give you grace if you will give me grace, because we are all in this time of unprecedented. We don't have any experience to fall back on to know how to navigate our ship moving forward. And so, just being patient and kind and giving grace, I think, would be the best thing that anyone can do in this situation, because as teachers, we know this is not going to be the best instruction we've ever given. We're going to try our best because as teachers, we signed up for this. We signed up to love on students, to care for them, and to teach them. That's the number one goal. That's why we're called teachers. But right now, we're having to do it in such a way that maybe the learning isn't the most important thing. When we're in these times of trauma, sometimes it's just checking in with students and making sure that the mental health is what I'm trying to say, is maybe more important than figuring out that math fact for the day. And that's okay. And if we're willing and able to communicate back and forth with teachers, I think that families will understand that, that the teachers are really in that same situation. We're in the same boat as you, because we have kids in our homes too, a lot of us, and we're walking through and trying to navigate teaching our kids, which is exponentially harder, I can speak from myself, than it is to teach a classroom of 30 5th and 6th graders. I would do that in an instant over teaching my pre-K right now, because that's not my area of strength. It's not what I'm gifted in, but I'm doing the best I
would
can.
like to do neither of those things, actually.
So really, patience, grace, and kindness, that's really what we have right now, and what we need to be just doling out in mountainfuls.
Oh man, sloshing it around, right? Bucketfuls of grace and patience. Nobody is an expert, really. Even those that have been on the platform for a while, they've not been on the platform with this kind of scale and scope.
And, you know, to be honest, a lot of these platforms were not built for this. So in Jefferson County, we've had several system outages where some of our platforms are going down and crashing and not supporting some of the logins. And I mean, just when you think as a teacher that you've got it figured out and you've built your platform correctly, then the whole system crashes and you're back to square one. And so, you know, it's
weak.
Yes. And so we're just left doing the best we can.
Yeah, that's good.
I think practically, as you said, just giving grace. You and I have talked off camera, offline, and I know one of the things that you've mentioned is that to over communicate right now is probably better.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
Just talk to that a little bit.
So there's many things that may come up that you may, as a parent, not understand, or you may not know how to support your kid with. And rather than getting to levels of frustration with you and your child, reach out, ask for help. I know that there are so many teachers that are doing one-on-one over the phone or over Zoom calls or even Google Chat. They're doing some tutoring. They're helping kids with things that they are getting stuck on. Don't let it become an issue because you haven't communicated it, because the teachers genuinely have hearts to help right now. And they really are trying to do this in the best way they can. And we also recognize what may have been a success one day in a lesson might not be a success the very next day in a similar lesson. But we're not going to know that unless we get that kind feedback from the parents to say, hey, I couldn't log in today. Is there something going on with the system? Or, you know, just being able to open the lines of communication and be willing to understand that maybe a teacher had a hard day and maybe what they had planned for didn't work, and giving them the grace to say, and that's okay. Let's try again tomorrow. So,
if you're online, if you're watching, if there's a question that you've got for Jessie, we've got our feed going. We can take a look and we can pass those questions along to Jessie, and she'll be happy to answer those.
Yeah, we've got some that we've talked about. But please feel free, man. Post them on here. We're watching the feed as it goes here right in front of us. And so if you've got questions, let's get into that. Talk about the relationship with mental health in this certain circumstance, and how it's uncharted, but how important mental health is.
Well, right now we're living in an age of trauma. The world around us is traumatic. It's stressful when we have the news on and our kids are experiencing this and they don't have a frame of reference for what this means for them. It's creating so many questions and so much anxiety in our students and in the adults as well. I've never lived through anything like this. And so, you know, making sure that we're checking in with our kids and making sure that we are putting that mental health first and learning second, I think is really important. That we are checking on the relationships of our kids and making sure that they're doing okay with this online platform, because there have been times when it gets frustrating, when it's hard. And so when you're adding stress upon stress upon stress, you know, the world we're living in, and then switching to online and then not seeing their friends. And I mean, this really is hard and it does impact learning. And so as parents, being able to pull the plug and just say, you know what, today we're going to, I think the saying goes, take a mulligan on it and just come back again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I had one of my kiddos who happens to have a really good English teacher, was really upset that she wasn't going to be able to get her project in time because she missed the deadline. She misread it, and she thought, I've missed the deadline, so what's the point of doing it? I said, I bet you could email your English teacher and just ask him if maybe you had a couple extra hours to turn it in. And so, you know, and of course, you know, it wasn't a big deal at all. But I think it's just lowering that. If we as parents can take some of that emotion out of the room and go, all right, we're gonna breathe. Do you want some? Do you want some chocolate? Do you want, you know, do you go outside and drink some coffee? Whatever that is. Just if we as adults can take some of that emotion out of the room and go, I bet if you just talk to your teacher, I bet you they'll have some grace as well.
Yeah. And that truly is the key right now. Just communicate it, because there's a lot of flexibility happening. You know, the directives that we as teachers are getting from the district changes on a daily, week, basis. It's a constantly changing thing. What we think is happening might be different the very next day. And so, as teachers, we're understanding when things just don't go right at home. And I mean, how do we know that someone in the house isn't sick? How do we know that, that these kids are okay mentally? Because I can speak for myself. The first time I walked in the grocery store and saw the empty shelves, it brought tears to my eyes. Just the weight of the world felt like it was just so much that day. And I didn't do a good job in my job that day because I was trying to process and really think through, how does this affect me? How can I really figure this out? Is our world going to be okay? And for kids, it's that much harder because they're not in control. They're relying on their parents to really make sense of this. And and as parents, it's hard for us to give the control back because we are out of control as well. We're doing the best we can.
And so probably just that permission to we don't have to get frustrated.
No.
We don't get frustrated.
Working to frustration level is never good. Classroom teachers are taught that when frustration level happens, learning is not going to happen. And so as a parent, it's really important to break up your day. In a classroom, we have classroom management. We know that we have to structure out and stick to routines as best as possible because that is what kids thrive on. That's what they do the best in. And so if families can create a schedule where they're still getting up in the morning and still doing the online learning as best to their ability as they can, and having a space in their house where this is the learning space, where you're going to have your supplies that are school supplies. These are not ones that are going to go outside or go up into your bedroom for the craft that you're wanting to work on later this afternoon, a dedicated space, a dedicated time, and make sure that you're planning into that time fun, have recess, take a break and go outside, enjoy the day. It is so important to get some of that vitamin D right in the middle of your learning. It's so important to have physical activity.
I've become the junior high and high school gym teacher. That's
yes. Who doesn't love going outside and playing for gym class?
That's right.
For sure.
For me, even when we first started the first couple of days, I think I had in my mind the way that I thought it should go. This kid should sit here and this kid should sit here. And if I'm, real structured and all of that, but there was some pushback and we all had to kind of learn, okay, well, maybe you'll do better if you just need to lay down on the floor and go do your stuff over there. Maybe you're just going to sit on the couch. And I think for me, just going, I need to give my kids the space to let them learn how they're going to learn in this environment during this time of you said, trauma.
And keep in mind, they're kids. They're not built to sit for 3 or 4 hours straight. That's not what they do. That's not how their brains are built. Elementary age kids really should take a brain break or a brain booster after 10 to 15 minutes, depending on grade level, and middle and high schoolers after every 15 to 20 minutes, depending on age, of course. But they really do need to look up from their screen, take a break, and then come back and focus again.
Yeah.
That's really important. Hey, we got to get this out. Let's get this done. Let's get it behind us. Whereas, I don't know if others, watching are similar to me. Boy, I just want to get this behind us. Where sometimes the best thing is to go, okay, you did that for about 35, 40 minutes. Yeah. Let's take a break.
Yeah. Yep.
It's so important to communicate because we did that on one of my kids. We have a middle schooler and he was trying so hard to figure out this math thing. What is it with math? But, trying to figure out this math thing. And I was sitting with him even, and I was helping him as best as I could, but we could not figure it out. And so he messaged the teacher and he said, I can't get past this certain point. And she was so awesome. And she got right back and said, hey, jump on tomorrow, try it for another 10 minutes and I'll give you an A. I mean, oh, that's what as a parent, I'm like, thank you.
So thank you. I love all the great teachers, and really our kids, their teachers have been great. I am quite certain I'm the child of two teachers. I was a teacher. Julie was a teacher in the past. Not all teachers are created equally. And Brian, you just said math is awesome. Now I see the evidence of that. I'm not sure I believe that. But anyway, there are some scenarios. It's just true.
Yeah.
That some teachers are difficult. Maybe they're dealing with trauma and they're not sure what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is so outside of their comfort zone
That's good.
that they're not able to deal with it, whatever. Or maybe there are people, right? There are some bad teachers.
Yeah.
That happens occasionally as well. What would be your advice, Jessie, to a family, to an individual, to that single mom, single dad that's like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I've tried all these things and it's still just so hard.
So first off, communicate with the teacher. Ask what the must-do items are and ask for a priority list. For one kid, the math, if that's going to be the hard content, it might take them 2 hours. They don't have their friends sitting next to them that they can turn to and ask a question to. They can't raise their hand and ask their teacher. And so, if you ask the teacher what that priority list might be, the teacher might be able to help guide you in that direction, especially if you're in a situation where you don't have an abundance of time because you are just trying to make ends meet. You're working and your kid is home alone and trying to navigate this on their own. I mean, there are so many situations that are so unique right now that really start with the teacher. Ask them first and communicate, because that teacher is probably going to be willing to work with you.
Okay. That's so good. I love what you said. You said it a couple different ways. Just check in with your kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just check in with kids.
Check in. This is hard. Our kids have had everything that they love just taken out from under them. I mean, we hear about how hard it is for the seniors because they're, losing their prom and their graduation and all of that. And my heart goes out to them as well. But I mean, isn't that true for all of our kids that are ending their school year? There are some kids that had their favorite teacher this year, even if they're in second grade or first grade or, pre-K. And it's hard for some of our littles to understand why they can't see their friends anymore. And I mean, this whole situation is sad. It just hurts. And just check in and have those conversations, because mental health comes first. Academics comes second. That's my personal opinion.
That's so
right.
Without the mental health.
Yeah. We can't be academically sound if we're not mentally and emotionally sound.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah. That's really good. That's good.
Yeah. So your best resource in this whole thing, I know there's, different math links, there's different science links, but what I hear you saying is that the best resource is go straight to the teacher.
Yeah, start there, because as teachers, we are being so inundated with, free learning here, free learning there, try this website, try that website, that maybe they can help point you in the direction for something that they have tried or maybe used in the classroom before we were on this hiatus that might help support your kid, something that your child is familiar with even. So starting with the teacher is always going to be your best first step. Then after that, you can reach out to other resources within the school building as well. So it just depends on your kid's needs, really.
Because you really could go on a goose chase looking for different resources on how to support your kid, on how to do different things. Mm-hmm. But the teacher is probably your best first starting spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of memes lately on Facebook and Instagram that are kind of mocking, I guess, all of the different resources that you could possibly need. And it's funny because it's true. Like there's directions for parents for how to use Google this, and directions on, Seesaw and all of these different sites that these teachers are using. And it is so overwhelming as a parent to not know which one is the best one. And I'm going to the teacher first. That's my strategy. So,
and freeing to me as a parent, that way I don't have to do all the research. I can just go to the teacher and go, hey, how can I come alongside my kid, or what's the best route? And that way I don't have to do the research, because that's clearly what the teacher's expertise is in anyways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just because you Googled something does not eliminate the 4, 5, 6, 7 years of education that the teacher has,
yes. Oh
right?
Word. Or 15 years.
Or 15.
Like Jessie.
Right. People, that's the problem with information technology, is everybody has it, but not everybody knows what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason teachers went to college and have advanced degrees.
Yes.
And we can respect that. We can honor that. And we can lean into the system that they're working with and go straight to them. That's really well said.
Yeah. So I'm going to encourage anybody who's listening, I'm going to encourage encourage you that if you have an interaction with a teacher, to start with thanks and end with thanks. That'll just go a long ways. I'll pretty much every email that I ever send a teacher is I close it out with thank you so much for all you do.
Yep.
Because my word, I'm not doing it. They are, and they're on the front lines doing this every single day, and they're thinking about it, and it's like it's their calling in life. You're not going into teaching for the high amount of pay. You're not going into it because for whatever reason. You're going into it because you want to teach and you love kids and you love that creativity and being there. And so moms and dads, begin with thanks and end with thanks if you're communicating with a teacher. And just even if you don't have anything to talk to them about, just tell a teacher thanks. Oh my goodness. Tell a teacher thanks.
Yeah, I'm pretty biased. One, like I said, I've known Jessie for years. She's great. Her husband, Jeremy, teaches our twins. He's pretty awesome. And so I'm a big fan of teachers out there, but I'm the son of teachers. My dad taught high school for 33 years, I believe. My mom taught for over 20 years, elementary. My brother is a junior high English teacher. My sister-in-law is a speech pathologist with local schools. Yeah. And so, right, just a big fan of teachers. And to that end, we mentioned this, actually, Jessie wasn't sure because she was working outside today. That's why she has that lovely Colorado glow about her shoulders.
Rookie mistake.
Rookie mistake right there. But one of the things, if you guys checked this out earlier online, we're partnering with Kokopelli Beer Company down the street from Harbor, and actually recognizing and supporting teachers like Jessie, like her husband, Jeremy, and others out there. And so Harbor is opening a tab. We said, hey, we want to open a tab. We're going to set it at $500. And tomorrow night from 5 to 7, the first ones to call, if you're a teacher, if you're a first responder, or if you're in the medical field, right? You're that radiology technician, whatever it looks like. If you're in one of those categories, we want to provide a meal on us. It also supports Kokopelli, who they're struggling to navigate this new season, just like teachers are. And so you can nominate somebody, you can tag them. All they have to do is they have to call Kokopelli's number. You can look it up online. You can figure that out. But what happened was I made that announcement around like 2:45, 3 o'clock today. We're now well over 1,000 views of that announcement. We've had over 30 shares. And I got a call from the owner of Kokopelli going, I don't know that 500 is going to cover it. Is there anybody else you can reach out to? So here's what we're doing. We're talking internally with the church staff. Kokopelli is going to be reaching out to their connections with the Rotary Club and putting it out to them. And so if you would like to match or just share something, we actually had several staff members that jumped in today and said, we'll throw another 100. And so we've got several more 100 that we've thrown on top of that. We don't want to say no to families. If you're a teacher, a first responder, medical person, nurse, doctor, whatever, we want to provide you with a meal. If we need to extend it to another evening, we'll extend it to another evening. We'll do that. But if you want to give, you can go to harborchurch.life/give. And there's a special drop-down menu there to support what we're doing with Meals for Heroes and with Kokopelli. And Jessie, you are one of the Thomas family heroes.
Yep, for sure.
And
well, we love Thomas very much.
Oh my word, we're thankful for you. We're thank you for these words of wisdom, and I'm sure we'll probably check in again as everybody just navigates this new normal. Big takeaway for me: make sure you're mentally and emotionally healthy.
Yes.
That's true for mom and dads.
Yeah.
Grandparents, whoever that guardian is that's in that situation, that's trying to help teach that kid. If it's the older brother or sister, your mental health matters, right? Don't rage on your little brother and little sister too much.
Yeah.
Whoever that is, gosh, we got to monitor that.
Just lots of grace.
Lots of grace. And man, we will get through this. We're going to assume the best in our teachers. We're going to assume the best in each other, and we're going to get through this. And it's going to be a sweet season for all of us when we walk through this. And again, as I say this regularly, today we're another day closer to the end of doing life like this. And we can celebrate that. God's in this. So I want to wrap this up. Man, again, I'm a pastor. I always wear that hat. Jessie, for those that are watching, man, you're obviously a teacher. You're a teacher of teachers, but you're a woman. You're a child of God. How is it for you in your faith to navigate this time, specifically as a teacher?
truly, it has been such a blessing to have faith in this. As I'm walking through this, like, I know that everything is going to be okay, because no matter what the end game is going to be, like, I know where I'm going. I know what I believe. I know that Jesus is with me. I know that this is not too big for Jesus. I know that that he is walking with me through this whole thing, and that no matter what happens, he's got me. So in times when I slip and start to get anxious and worry, I go back to just knowing where my faith lies, and knowing that Jesus is in control and he's got me. So he's got all of us.
Yeah.
Man, that he does. Always.
Mm-hmm.
Always and forever. Man, thank you so much, Jessie. Thank you to all of you that tuned in. Those that are watching this after it's aired live, man, thank you guys. You can post in this feed for a while.
Yeah.
We'll be checking. If there's a specific question, man, we can shoot that to Jessie. She can respond to that. We'll figure out an answer for you. Know that we're for you. You're not alone.
Not alone.
And we will walk through this together.
That's
we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Jessie, so much for all that you shared. Guys, we'll see you. And man, we're really excited. Easter this Sunday, 9 a.m., Harbor Church Online. We hope to see everybody there. God bless. Have a great evening.